Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today as I talk about another film in my Oscar review series. Today, we're going to be talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So, this film is up for visual effects at the Oscars, therefore qualifying it for my watch as many Oscar nominated films as possible list. Thought I would do something a bit different today. I believe this is the first Marvel movie that I'm actually reviewing on my channel, so I'll just tell you a little bit about my history with these movies, which isn't much at all, honestly. So I'm not one of those people who runs out to watch every Marvel movie that comes out. There's nothing at all wrong with that, just not really my thing. And, I'm also not one of those people that's opposed to watching them, though, either. If one of the movies looks interesting to me, then I'll watch it. And I thought this one, Shang-Chi, looked interesting just because it's got more of a martial arts feel to it, and I love martial arts movies, so I thought this looked pretty cool. Now, technically, this is a superhero movie, and the plot does kind of fall in line with those movies, but I appreciate the fact that this movie does try and do something a little bit different with the same old tried and true formula. Uh, the film stars Simi Liu, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and Aquafina, and the acting in this film is solid all the way around. And for the most part, I really enjoyed this film. All I really wanted to see was some good martial arts action, and the film delivers on that level. So some of the things this film does well that I appreciated, besides the fact it tried to do something a little bit different with the superhero formula, is that I think it used flashbacks really, really well, and it really helped. I thought this movie handled exposition pretty well. I thought it handled the setup pretty well. Once the movie got going, I'll talk about that more in a bit, but the flashbacks were incorporated throughout the film, and I thought they did a great job of fleshing out the characters. I also enjoyed the musical score. I thought it was really good. I think sometimes these scores in these superhero movies are a bit underrated. Another thing I really liked is I thought this film built up very well to the climax once it got going. But the main thing that I really enjoyed about this film was the fight scenes. To me, you watch a movie like this for the action, because let's be honest, the plots of these movies are usually not that spectacular. There's exceptions, but most superhero films have pretty basic plots that are similar. But I thought the fights were very well done. There is a lot of good martial arts action, just a lot of good action in general. I really appreciate that there's a lot of wide shots and there's some clever cinematography, and you can always tell what's going on. I'm really not a fan of some of these modern movies that do a lot of quick cuts and a lot of shaky cam, and most of that stuff doesn't work for me. And I feel like sometimes it tries to hide, maybe stunt work and choreography that's not that great. But I have to say, you can tell everyone involved with the fights in this movie really knew what they were doing. And I have to give some credit to the director of the film as well. His name is Destin Daniel Cretton. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for doing such a great job with the action scenes. And the whole rest of the film is directed fine as well. Now, as much as I enjoyed this movie overall, there's some light humor that works pretty good as well. I do have a few issues that kind of creep up in these kind of movies. And I do think that this movie does take a while to get started. Once again, it's arguably slightly too long. One of the reasons is because the first half hour of this film, not a lot really happens. Like, I get they're trying to show you the character before they go on to fulfill their destiny or whatever, but it just isn't as interesting as it could have been, in my opinion. From there forward, after about the half hour mark, the film gets a lot better and really interesting. The beginning's not terrible. I just thought they could have done more here. And my bigger problem, and a problem in almost every modern movie that I'm finding, is the way the villains are handled in the film. Now, the lead villain, whether he's really a villain or not is debatable, is handled well and is a good character that we actually know something about and are invested in. Unfortunately, this is yet another one of those movies where there's like a greater evil or a higher evil, and that part of the plot just isn't developed well at all. It feels kind of tacked on. It comes in more toward the second half of the film, and by then it just didn't totally work for me. It doesn't destroy the film because I was invested in the characters, but I wish they could come up with something a little better than this just, greater evil and it's not even really clear in this movie exactly what the greater evil wants, or if it was there, I just missed it because I didn't care at that point. I just feel like this whole part of the plot was sloppy and could have made the movie even better. But this is a really good, entertaining movie that I would recommend if you just want to watch a fun action Marvel movie. It's perfectly good. There is one more thing I want to talk about, which is the special effects in the film, because they are Oscar nominated, and the reason that I added this film to my Oscar review series. And I would say overall the effects are very good. Now, to be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of some of the modern CG. I think oftentimes in movies it's overdone. But I have to say Shang-Chi shows pretty good restraint, and I found the more subtle effects to be more effective than the really big ones. There is a little bit of overuse of CG toward the end of the film, but I think for the most part the film handles it well, and I thought the effects overall in the movie were above average for a modern film, so I can understand why the film was nominated in that category. So overall, if you just like good, fun action movies to watch that have a little bit of depth to them, there's a little bit of depth to this movie, and moved pretty well. I would recommend Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. So I'll be back with more reviews very soon, and thanks for watching.